Y ahí estoy también poniendo para que esté en vivo en YouTube. Ténganme paciencia que estoy aprendiendo a manejar la tecnología de todo esto. Bueno, y dado que... Esperen que me estoy escuchando en el canal. Estoy escuchando en el canal. Ahí está. Entonces, bueno, bienvenidos a todos. Muchas gracias por estar acá. Para mí es un placer enorme inaugurar esta serie de encuentros significativos haciendo el primero y con mi queridísima supervisora y amiga, la doctora Robyn Walser. Robyn Walser es una de las referentes en el modelo de ACT y además entrenadora de entrenadores, terapeuta clínica y una excelente ser humano. Muchos de ustedes ya tuvieron la oportunidad de verla porque ha venido 3 veces a la Argentina y autora del libro de ACT para el trabajo con trauma, el The Heart of ACT, el libro de Mindful Couple y muchas otras contribuciones al área de ACT. Y como siempre le digo, además de que es una persona querida, verla trabajar a Robyn clínicamente es realmente una experiencia magistral. Así que no se me ocurre mejor oportunidad que compartir con ustedes la posibilidad de este espacio de encuentro con ella. Y yo voy a dejar de hablar y la vamos a escuchar a ella esta hora, en donde pueda presentarnos lo que quiera y sobre todo ustedes puedan conversar y hacerle preguntas. Lo que vamos a hacer es que para hacerles preguntas, en participantes, ustedes pueden levantar la mano virtual. Y a partir de eso, en ese orden de la mano virtual, vamos a abrir el micrófono y van a poder ir haciendo preguntas. Hasta que se termine la hora que Robyn se tiene que ir. Quiero entonces finalmente agradecer la generosidad de Robyn de estar acá y sobre todo también la generosidad de Paulina, que de corazón hace una hermosa traducción al español. Gracias, Paulina. Los dejo con Robyn.
Let me just start off the bat by messing it up. You know, what the heck. I was just saying, I am so pleased to be here, and I am moved to tears to see the number of people who are joining us this afternoon. And it just reminds me of what a wonderful community can be built inside of being open and aware and engaged, right? Like a connection that's, I think, very important. And I just want to thank you, Manuela, for inviting me to be here. I don't wonder if I'll just be tearful throughout, but if I am, that's okay. So thank you all for coming. And I guess I wanted to start just by taking a moment to reflect on the times that we live in. And I can imagine that for most, if not all of you, that this is experienced as such an unusual time. And that in our lifetimes, for a world to be confronted with a pandemic such as the one that we're experiencing now is not only challenging for us individually, it's challenging for us socially and challenging for us in terms of our community. And we know that the second pandemic that follows the first pandemic of the virus is a mental illness pandemic, and that the beginnings of that are starting to be seen. Anxiety, depression, suicide, loss, grief, all of those experiences go up in a time of pandemic. And in many ways, it's heartbreaking when you think about what's happening to people and the losses that have occurred. And in other ways, I'm sure that some of you have found some very interesting things happening, or maybe even positive things happening. Things such as more time with your family, or getting a break and being able to recover from hard work hours, being more with nature and connecting with what you care about when you can go outside, because we're spending so much time inside. And so it's such a mixed time. And I would say that there are three main things that are assisting me during this time. The first is my family and friends, that they are connected and talking with me and sharing with me, and we're staying together in the best ways that we can given the circumstances. The second is my dogs, who you might have the opportunity to meet at some point during this presentation today. Them being here with me has been very helpful. And third has been using ACT on myself and being willing to feel what I feel and stay connected to my values. And not always easy. There are times when anxiety or distress arises, and that those experiences can lead to harder. Meet my dogs. And just recently, I was walking in a local park, and it was late afternoon, the sun was going down, and there was no one there. Like, it was a completely empty space. And the wind was blowing just a little bit, and I had this sense of nobody being on the earth anymore. Just like a sense of something very serious happening. Kind of apocalyptic, if that makes sense, sort of a sense of sheer loneliness. And I just opened up to the experience and let it come within me. Of course, my head said I wasn't alone, right? My head knew that all I had to do was walk back to my car and I'd see a lot of people again. But inside of this place, I can connect with and hear the fear and anxiety and struggle that people have. And the thing that it makes me think of is those who's lost their lives and had to die alone in a hospital because they haven't been able to be allowed to be with their family during this time. And there's such heartbreak inside of that. And then at the same time, hearing messages about how people can see the Himalayas again and the beautiful blue skies, and not as much pollution being in the air. And I just find myself swirling in this mixture of fear and anxiety and joy about some of the outcomes. And so it is such an odd time. And I just find myself being grateful again and again to come back to a place of openness to experiencing and a place of thinking about what matters and how I want to be, even when I'm alone, even when I'm by myself. And this is the great gift of this particular approach of ACT therapy. And I've reached out to Steve Hayes a number of times and have thanked him directly for what he has created and what he has offered. And you all coming here today to hear about this is just, speaks to the importance of this very place where what if who you are right now, as you are, with all you've ever experienced, is 100% acceptable. That nothing needs to change before you can step forward in your life. And if life is as precious as this virus is showing us to be, then I ask myself this question, and I will ask it of you as well. If I'm only here for this period of time, if I'm only here for this long, how do I want to do that? What will that look like? And I guess it's a question that I invite myself to consider again and again, and I invite you all to consider. And I invite you to invite your clients to consider. I just really am noticing the preciousness of time. And so I'm grateful in one sense for this terrible thing. And I'm also appalled in another sense at this terrible thing. And I don't know how many of you are feeling this sort of mixture of complex emotions and experiences. But I would not be surprised if it's a large number of you who are noticing that space. And my hope, here's my hope, is that as we begin to emerge from this experience, that we can see each other's humanity and not be afraid of each other, but come together and see each other as human beings and not as something that's threatening or different from, that we could work together and create something pretty meaningful as we step forward in all that we do. So with that, I want to just, Manuela had said this is Conversations in ACT, and I want to just take this time to be here for you in whatever way I can be and answer questions and explore. And it can be everything from I've got this thing that I've been worried about in my clinical work to just sharing an expression of what's been happening for you during the time of COVID-19. And so with that, I will open the floor and see if there's just some initial questions that we can begin this conversation of connection with each other. Are there questions, Manuela?
Y pueden abrir el micrófono, pueden levantar la mano virtual y les voy a abrir el micrófono a quien quiera hacer una pregunta y les habilito el audio. Solo recuerden que las preguntas son en español y Paulina se lo va a traducir a Robyn.
I was just thinking, Manuela, as we're waiting for anybody who might want to ask a question, is that it's hard to ask a question after you open with such a, right, like a place where there's this sort of impassioned quality of experience. And so
there's one question.
Okay, yeah.
Betty, fíjate que podés enmudecerte. Ahí está, ahí tenés el micrófono abierto, Betty.
Gracias, Manuela, para Robyn. Justo en la pregunta, bueno, en el comentario que ella hizo sobre la vida, me quedé pensando, ¿no? Yo diariamente atiendo aproximadamente 15 personas que están con el problema de COVID y pues al finalizar del día uno se queda con la sensación de cómo poder ayudarlos, ¿no? Y es bastante difícil porque dicen, o sea, no sabemos si vamos a poder amanecer mañana. Es complicado.
I think that it is very difficult. So if you're working directly with people who have COVID-19, I think you are exactly right that we don't know what's going to happen for them. If you are working for people who are suffering with anxiety or depression, it's likely that they'll wake up in the morning, but suffering will still be with them. And so when I think about sitting with somebody who's dying, somebody who doesn't know, you know, with tomorrow I will take another breath, the thing that I would hope that I could do is to just fully be there for that human being in those last moments or whatever moments I have with them. And I would not want to be there in a way that is indicative of what's happening to you is making me want to run. I'd want to be there in a way where what's happening to you, even if I'm feeling fear or uncertainty, or if I get caught like this could happen to me, that I can still offer my presence from a very heartfelt place. If I translate that over to someone who's struggling with anxiety or sadness or fears, I would do it in the same way. I will be here for you, and what you bring to me, I will not run from. Now, the only way I can do that is if I am aware of myself and that I won't run from me either. Because if I notice a fear or anxiety and I'm not willing to have it, I want to push it away, then I will not be able to be there for the person who's needing me to be there in that moment. And one of the other things that's striking to me about what you've said is that you're seeing 15 people. And I guess what I want to do in that place is just say, you're amazing, that you're hanging in there for 15 people in a day. That is a lot of people and a lot of suffering. And so also want to invite you to take your own time and have your own place where, like, hand on heart, offer compassion to your own experience in that space, because it's a lot to carry. It's a lot to hold. And I guess in it's interesting in some way, I feel like I want to come in and hold you as you hold them. And I think that like we as a community can do that as well. Like as you each work with people who are suffering in these ways, that we can turn to each other. Like I turn to Manuela, Manuela turns to me, and we can hold each other in these places. I hope that is helpful. It's a big job. Are there other follow-ups or other questions?
¿Otras preguntas? Anímense que Robyn no muerde.
I can. Well, and one thing that I think that I'm kind of curious, for how many of you do you find yourself working more or feeling more stressed while you're, in under COVID-19? I find this fascinating, right? Like now you get to work from home, the place we all want to be. And then we're home and we're working more, we're supporting more. And I really think we're just at the beginning of this, if it's anything like other pandemics that have rolled out across time. So I just finished working on an article there was a large group of us, about 10 people were writing this. And so I was reading a lot of information about what happens during pandemic in terms of mental health. And if any of the prior pandemics are an indication of what's coming, we all are going to be very busy for a very long time. And I feel the thing that I think is going to be very important for us is to know our own capacities. So you think about values-based living, and many of you have heard me say this, right, that it needs to go in both directions if you're going to be living it fully. And so we're, as helpers, as people who are interested in helping others, we often sort of get outwardly focused, and we forget to have a little bit of selfishness, which is absolutely okay. Like it's kind of like you want this much for you, and so you give yourself some space and time and feed yourself and give yourself some energy, and then a lot for others, because you're in this profession for a reason, right? Like you want to help other people, you're interested in decreasing suffering. So I would hope you would do that not at the cost of your own suffering, if that makes sense to folks. That there would be a place in here where you would have time to reflect, meditate, relax, take time off. And there's something about the idea of just giving you self-care tips that doesn't feel adequate. Because you guys all know about eat right, exercise, sleep enough. Like you guys all know that stuff, and is exactly the stuff that you're telling your clients. To me, it feels like there's a deeper reflection that's worth doing in this place, and that has a kind of tenderness in it with yourself, and maybe with those around you as well, where there's an experiential quality of, I am going to be easy on me in this time. So for instance, if you mess up an appointment, you double book, you are late 15 minutes, you forgot to do something for your child or for your partner, that you just make a little bit more space for yourself and a little bit more forgiveness of yourself in those places. Because inside of this helping profession, we can get pretty upset with ourselves and criticize ourselves in places where we're really trying to decrease suffering, but we're increasing our own. Does that make sense to you guys? I sort of, we shake our finger at ourselves, but not at other people. And so just to, if you find yourself in that position, just to like have some kindness for you as you move through your day. The other thing that I think can be, and this is just my opinion, and I'll be interested to hear your thoughts about this as well, is to think of how can I give in a way that's not my typical kind of giving. So, you know, as folks who are, I mean, I think there's all kinds of folks on the call here, but many of you in the therapist position, like you're giving continually, and of yourself, of your presence, of your hearing, of your warmth, your, I'm going to say advice, although that doesn't quite capture what I mean, but you're giving advice. And to find another way to give, something that you haven't typically done, where you maybe call and talk to somebody that you haven't talked to in years, or you you know, go to your neighbor and say, do you need something? Can I get properly socially distanced, right? But do you need something? Can I get something for you? Can I offer anything? Just so that we remember our sort of humanness inside of this place, and that we can make a difference that's beyond things that are linked to our job, but are things that are also linked to how we want to be in the world. I mean, if we look at just globally, some of what's happening in terms of divisions and inside of the virus, right? There's these divisions about the good people and the bad people, and the sort of sense of who's leading us and, you know, what might harm us. Like we can get focused on those kinds of things. And there's something about coming into giving and reaching out that not only creates something for you, it's sort of that pay it forward idea, it brings something back for yourself. And I think if we're going to heal as a world community, this is exactly the kind of thing that will be important for us to do. Do folks have a sense of what I'm saying here as I'm talking about this process?
There are comments in the chat box, but they're in Spanish. Hay comentarios I can translate it to you. I feel identified because I'm
maybe translate a couple.
In the health system, and I had to deal with the guilt of not being available for psychotherapy. Because I wanted to protect my family and the elder ones in my family. Acabo de leer lo que está en el chat que escribió Patricia acá. There are a lot of questions.
I heard the translation of one. Yeah.
Karina, ¿querés abrir el micrófono?
Ok, sí, acá estoy. En realidad me quedé como un poco más enganchada. Hola Robyn, primero agradecerle, y la verdad como que el corazón se me va a salir, le juro. Estoy como muy emocionada y me sale como ansiedad que me caracteriza, lo quiero decir. Y me quedé como enganchada en lo que dijiste antes, de atender yo en general atiendo a personas que están pasando por niveles altos de ansiedad, y lo que me sucede es esto de que cuando yo cierro la pantalla y cuando ya no estoy ahí, me quedo como en falta, ¿no? Como esto de que no pude hacer tanto, ¿no? Que no pude hacer tanto de acompañar. A veces digo que es un tema de virtualidad y otras veces digo que tengo mi dedito, como dijiste vos, ¿no? Robyn, que lo tendría que bajar un poco, ¿no? Y me quedé con esta frase, que la verdad que me la voy a llevar, y me hizo mucho sentido cuando dijiste, nada necesito modificar para dar un paso adelante, ¿no? Y por ahí es lo que quiero, es esto, es que se modifique algo, y me quedo con falta porque necesitaría que se modifique algo. Por ahí algo que la persona me está pidiendo, de que le saque ese sufrimiento, de que no sufra, y que yo intento acompañarla, pero me parecería que me quedo siempre corta. Así que agradecerte por esa frase. Tal vez volví un poquito más atrás de la charla, pero me había quedado con estas ganas de poder decírtelo.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you very much, Karina. And it's just wonderful that you were noticing that process happening for yourself. And compassion is about not removing, well, it depends on how you define it, but the way I think about it is that we join the person in their pain, but we don't need to solve the pain. But something happens, like there's a transformation. Like if I could join you in your pain, Karina, about wanting to do the right thing for your client and just holding that space, there's something inside of that already transforms it. Does that make sense? And it's like this kind of beautiful space of I hear you, I connect to you, and I accept you. And that just feels like such a powerful place. It almost takes me back to the place where you think about being a baby and like being very held by your mom and dad. And even if you're crying or if you're hungry or you're just cooing and happy, but you're just held. And I think we can create that experientially in the therapy room, and it doesn't require something smart, right, or something clever. It can just be the presence and the stance that you bring to the room. And when noticing that wagging finger, right? Am I doing enough? Am I getting it right? This wasn't helpful. All of those kinds of things that can happen. And just reminding yourself that, like, how many times has my mind said that to me? Oh yeah, millions of times, right? Like this is what my mind says. This is what my mind does. It just has a tenderness in it and softens it a little bit. But thank you, Karina, for bringing that into the room. I'm sure there's people who can connect with you. Like, was I helpful today? And I definitely have days where I want to say something about online too, but I have days where I'm like, did I make somebody worse? Right? Like, did I do something here that wasn't helpful? And so it's just one of those things of my mind getting caught and reflecting. I think it's always a good thing. And we're under a particular challenge of this two-dimensional space. So you guys, I think, are having to work harder, and clients are having to work harder in some way, because the medium itself is not easy in terms of all of the body language that you're missing. And I mean, it's good. I mean, I'm not saying that this isn't workable. It certainly can be workable. But it's a space that has a colder quality to it, I guess I would say. Because if you're in the room with a human being, there's a warmth that's being generated between you and the other person. And you can see all of their body language, so you hear more, right? Like when we communicate with each other, it'll be a little bit funny here, but when we communicate in the therapy room, you know, it's not like this, right? Like we can see the whole of the human being. And it's very clear to me, and Manuela and I have had multiple discussions about this, that we communicate with each other in so many more ways than just this. You know, like I'm sharing with you kind of my personal experience when we started, and you can see I'm communicating something to you just by this. You guys see this? Right? Like that's sharing something with you. It's and to this is a vulnerable space, and I'm sharing with you that there's something emotional happening, and it's coming up in my experience. And one thing that I could do is, like, you know, move away from that. And I think that we have to work harder at this space and sharing this when we're in this medium. And so not only is it like, am I doing okay? There's also this place of, am I doing okay here? And you know, there's this very interesting research that shows that the internet, if there's a small delay, even like a second in terms of what you say and somebody else's response, the person who talked receives that as a rejection of themselves. So like there's all these other little subtle things that we're working on inside of this medium, and you got to get used to this medium. And I am myself, mostly for friends and family, looking forward to the day that I can be in the room and have somebody see this instead of over the instead of over the internet. Yeah.
Thank you. Jessica.
Hola, ¿me escuchan?
Sí.
Hi, Jessica.
Bueno,
I can hear you.
Hi, hello. Bueno, un poco tiene que ver justo con lo que estabas diciendo, lo que yo quería preguntar. Tengo algunos pacientes que están solos en su casa hace más de 3 meses, y especialmente con ellos, creo que un poco nos pasa a todos, pero especialmente con ellos, se nota como la falta de contacto social está favoreciendo, creo yo, que aparezcan algunos síntomas depresivos. Entonces se sienten muy aburridos, sienten que agotaron su creatividad, sienten ansiedad, sienten que la rutina es como un loop que se repite. Y realmente es un tema que me parece que va a ser muy importante, porque cuando nosotros dejemos de estar en cuarentena, igual el contacto social no va a poder ser como era antes, y hay algo irreemplazable en ese contacto social, y no sé cómo vamos a abordar nosotros desde la profesión eso.
Oh, this is a really, well, there's 2 parts in here, Jessica. There's the part about people who are alone and suffering alone in this place. And then there's the part about what happens when we're actually able to start being with each other again, what is that going to look like? And these are, you know, the being alone part, I think, is particularly difficult, because people are asked to stay home, they're told to stay home, and so my recommendation for folks like this is not only to keep their appointments, but to make phone calls, to get on the internet, to connect in whatever way they can, just in terms of other human beings. But then if they can go into their backyard, or if they can open a window, anything that like sort of puts them back in the space of breathing another air that's not just the air inside of their home. And connecting to nature, I think, can be really important here. Like the bird in the tree out there is your companion. And the ladybug that's on the leaf is your companion. You know, and the whatever animal might be around, or the trees are your companion. And see if you can actually connect to nature as a way to feel companionship when after you've reached out to the people that you care about and love. And you may have some people who don't have anybody to reach out to, and for them, I think it will be even more important to find ways to get connected online and to like put their feet on the earth. Like I might even say, go outside and pull your shoes off, pull your socks off, and put your feet right on the grass or the earth, and just feel yourself connected to that space. And they might feel like it seems maybe silly or something like that, but as much as our mind says we're alone, we are inside of a very alive system. It's just that we walk around unaware of that system a lot. And maybe it's a temporary fix, but it could help. And if it helps, I would have them do that, especially under these circumstances, right? So you don't have to be creative. You don't have to like figure a new hobby. You can just walk outside and put your toes in the dirt. You see what I'm saying? And then when it comes to going back out into public again, I think people are going to be afraid. And they're going to wonder, can I touch you? Can I hug you? How is this going to look? And it's a social experiment, frankly. Are we going to start bowing to people instead of shaking their hands or hugging them or kissing them on the cheeks? Like, we are in a really strange time of trying to figure out how we step forward if we don't have a vaccine. And it's interesting, if you look at across history at some of the behaviors that have emerged out of pandemics, it's like a whole world, a whole society changes their behavior in response to something like this. So there's a bit of uncertainty right here, and that we've got to sit with some uncertainty about what is it going to look like? How do we keep each other safe and still connect? And that behavior is like kind of an unknown in this moment. Any of you who've met me, you know I'm a big hugger. Like I like to get in there and, give people squeezes, and I'm just like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? And so I'm thinking on it a lot and wondering about it a lot, and I want to just sort of start to see what emerges and how it works. And I'm going to live with the uncertainty of it for a bit of time. Thank you, Jessica, for that's a great questions and wonderings about how do we not only being alone, but then once we don't have to be alone anymore, what do we do? And for some of the people that we're working with, they're going to get so used to being home that they're going to be afraid to go out. Even though they're say I'm alone, it's going to be hard for them to get out there. And so that values-based behavior is going to be really important at that time. Thank you, Jessica.
Mariana? Mariana Urtueta, ahí está.
Hola, muchas gracias, Leo, Robyn. Muchas gracias por esta oportunidad. Yo quería hacer tal vez una pregunta y un comentario a la vez, ¿no? Creo que estamos habitando una situación muy particular en la cual creo que por primera vez estamos de alguna forma metidos en lo mismo nosotros y los pacientes, ¿no? Y cómo habitar este momento, ¿no? Estar ahí acompañando a otro al mismo tiempo que uno tiene que acompañarse a sí mismo en una situación tan similar. No es una cosa habitual que nos pase. A veces pasa que nos consultan por algo que nos ha sucedido a nosotros en la vida también, pero esta es una situación muy particular. Y creo que es complicado, ¿no? Si uno no está muy conectado con sus emociones y con su estar en este momento. Y la otra cuestión es cómo estar en esta experiencia cuando en realidad todo el tiempo lo que aparece alrededor es ¿cuándo termina? ¿Cuándo termina? ¿Cuándo termina? Y es como decir, bueno, es deseable que termine porque quiere decir que estamos sanos, que la gente deja de morir, ¿no? Y a la vez ¿no? Como no estar pensando en el cuándo termina, ¿no? Y poder estar ahí atravesando esta experiencia de una manera tan compleja, ¿no?
Yeah, no, it's such a nice observation, Mariana, in the sense that usually our clients will bring to us a context that feels of suffering that feels different from our own. Although we may have some similar experiences in the past, we're now in this context where we're all having the same process happening to us and unfolding at the same time. And this is where I think that self-disclosure can be very useful to your clients in saying a bit more about, this is what I notice myself experiencing here, and I feel anxious too, or you want it to be authentic, right? But that there's sort of this sense of we're really are in this together in a way that maybe we've never experienced before. Inside the ACT model, one of the things that's just another fabulous thing about it is it removes that sort of hierarchical process of therapist and client, and it's human to human. And so here we are in this situation where we truly are having the same experience. And so I think sharing what's going on for you a bit more with your client, not overtaking, but a bit more with your client can be really helpful. And letting them know that you have sadnesses and fears, and maybe even that there's some things that you experience that you find interesting or new or helpful, like that sort of mix of complex experience. And then with respect to Marianne, I'm totally, your second question blew right out of my head.
Y esto de poder estar en la experiencia sin estar esperando que termine, cuando la idea de que termine es como lo deseable universalmente, digamos, ¿no? Todo el mundo espera que termine.
Yes, yeah. Yes. There's two things that I think are probably happening here. And the first and probably most problematic is that our minds like to be out in the future, right? When is this going to stop? When is this going to change? When will this be different? But I also want you to notice that 4 months have gone by that you've been doing this. And how many of you are surprised that it's been 4 months, right? And you're doing it. You're in there and you're hanging through it. And so I do think that our minds sort of get out ahead of us and want this to end and stop, and just to recognize it, to be aware, like, okay, I know that my mind is like looking to be in the future, and just come back to the now. And then sort of on the other side of that is having a sense of understanding around the impatience. Be nice to just get back to life and to have things be normal again, and really validating the desire and the yearning for things to be different again, and asking people to sit with that uncertainty of we just don't know. I mean, this is like, I find it sort of, there's no place where we can say it'll stop here. Like maybe some of you have been watching, but in the United States, like we thought we were going to open up and the cases have just like, right, we're right in the middle of this huge increase. And there's some places around the world that have done a great job, but they're opening up and they're seeing cases rise again. And there's a lot of uncertainty, and we are not good at uncertainty as human beings. We just are not good at it because it's threatening, right? Like if I can't know what's coming my way, I can't protect myself. And so that feels like I'm in a threatening space. And so if I know I can take care of things, I can manage things, I can plan, I can figure out, I can go on vacation next August because it's going to stop by then, whatever it is. And yet we land in this place where we have no idea and it feels threatening. And so in some ways, what we need to do is feel and have compassion for that threatening place, sort of soothing the threat, if that makes sense. And you know, typically I talk about this in terms of we get scared when there's no lions, right? Like we should be scared when there's lions. And I talk about it, we get scared when there's no lions, but there's a lion here. There is an actual lion called COVID-19. And so I sort of expect people to be in a little bit of a higher threat, a little bit more aware, and then just to, you know, come back to, I'm going to stay safe. I'm going to notice my impatient mind, and I'm going to be here now as much as I can. Does that feel helpful, Mariana? Okay. So I'm noticing, Manuela, the time has flown by.
Yeah.
Like I feel like we started 5 minutes ago. I don't know if other people are experiencing that. And so I will have to end it too, because I have a client. I'm going to go see a client. And I just want to see if there's any last thing that I can answer or convey before we need to depart for today.
Tenemos como 6 preguntas, así que vamos a la siguiente y vemos qué pasa.
One thing I could
Alejandra, ¿qué? Sí.
One thing I could do as well is if you want to save the questions for me, I'm willing to do 2 things. I can come back another day and answer more questions. Or I can, I'm happy to do that. Or I can also, if you send them to me, I can type up some responses to those questions. So either one, I'm happy. It's funner to do it this way. But so either one is perfectly fine by me.
Perfecto, entonces nos quedan 4 minutos. Si quieren...
So one more question?
Sí. Alejandra.
Alejandra.
Alejandra. No contesta.
Hola,
Ahí
perdón,
está,
mi señal
sí.
estaba súper mala. Quería agradecerle mucho a ti, Manuela, y a Robyn. Y quería aprovechar para preguntar más o menos cómo es que nosotros podríamos empezar a trabajar con pacientes que ya tienen alguna condición, digamos, de algún tipo de diagnóstico, como depresión o ansiedad, o alguna situación como ansiedad social, y esto lo que ha hecho es como acrecentar todavía más el problema, ¿no? Y cómo es que esto también implica para nosotros alguna cantidad más de demanda para los consultantes con los que ya tenemos una relación o una conexión, ¿no? Porque creo que hay alguna cantidad de consultantes que regresaron a consulta por esto, pero hay otros que se vuelven un poco más demandantes. Esa era más o menos mi consulta.
Oh my goodness, this is a challenging question, Alejandra. I agree with you, and by the way, you're not alone. I've heard many people say that they have old clients coming back, and that clients they currently are having more experiences of anxiety or more intense experiences. And I do not have a fantastic answer for this question. If you have room and you can still do self-care, I would bring somebody in. If you don't have room, you might consider forming some groups where you could have people come together with similar diagnoses or struggles, although they don't have to be similar. And you can, manage a group and see more people in a group fashion. I mean, this is a really challenging question. And this is what I say is that I think that you're just starting to see the tip of the iceberg on this. And it's worrisome to me, because in the same way that we don't have people who can get care for when they have COVID, is we have people who are not going to get care for their current mental health problem. And so I find that heartbreaking, basically, because there's not enough Alejandras to go around. And if you get burnt out, then you can't help anybody. And so I think it just has to be a watching, and how am I doing, and who can I take? What are some possibilities for group, if that's possible, and ways to support each other. And with Manuela and I, when we're doing our supervision, we don't just talk about ways of interacting with clients and how to help clients. We also spend some time just laughing with each other and catching up with each other. And I would recommend that if you're having supervision with anybody or getting supported by anybody, to not only share with them the difficulties that you might be having, but also just to connect around places where you feel some joy and some laughter, that kind of thing, to help with that process. Before I go, I don't have the little gal in here. She's in the other room. I was gonna share my little doggie with you all so you could see one of my joys and laughters. Let me see if she's right outside the door. Yeah, she is. She's right there. So this is one of the ways that I kind of work with helping myself, Alejandra, is when I'm feeling a little overwhelmed, is I just remind myself that I can just be with her and she brings me joy. Can you hear her snorting? And yeah.
Y hermoso, y soy consciente de la hora de que tenés que ir con un paciente. Quiero agradecerles a todos los que estuvieron acá, agradecerle a Paulina su generosidad inmensa, agradecerle a Robyn, lo que no hay palabras para agradecerle. Como ya se habrán dado cuenta los que no la conocen, el título de su libro The Heart of Act no es algo que ella dice, es algo que Robyn encarna, es el corazón de ACT. Me alegro que todos la hayan podido escuchar y ojalá la volvamos a tener acá. Muchas gracias.
Stay safe and take care, everyone.
Chao a todos, pueden abrir los micrófonos si quieren y saludarla.
Bye.
Robyn.
Gracias.
Manu, gracias, Paulina. Gracias, Manu.
Lindos.
Chao, chao.
Gracias.
Manu, por la oportunidad.
Gracias a Dios.
Muchas gracias.
Gracias a todos.
Gracias.
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 Manu. Gracias, Roby. Gracias.
Robyn.
Gracias, Robyn. Gracias.
Gracias, Manuela.
Chao.
Gracias.
Take care. Be safe.
Gracias.
You too. Thank you.
Gracias a todos.
Gracias, Manu.
Voy a
Gracias.
cerrar la reunión, gracias.